Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents the Broadcasters Podcast, where we dive deep into the media industry headlines and dissect the digital disruption that diverges the masses into the new media counterculture and away from the media establishment. Here is the king of podcasts.
Last week, I talked about the stagnation of the Billboard Hot 100 charts. I talked about the issues with the music industry and the struggles they're having to go ahead and get music on the air, on the radio, or any other place where mainstream culture would go ahead and catch the song to help boost it in the charts. Meanwhile, if you see like a BBC Radio 1, they support new artists, they support new music, and they, of course, they support the established acts out there when they put a new album out. But they're not over the top and ingratiating where every song on the Billboard Hot 100 has to be something that's been around for a long time. And they're just going to go ahead and continue to be out there, and they're just going to, it's going to be the same songs because the chart now, the control is back to, it's back to the radio stations. And they don't deserve to have the right to control what's going on with the music. And that's what's going on now. As we speak, Heat Waves, Glass Animals now still continues to be number one on the Hot 100. 3 weeks at number one, 61 weeks on the chart. And the song came out 2 years ago. Or actually 2020. And if you look at the rest of the chart, you're saying to yourself, okay, 36 weeks for Stay, Kid Laroi and Justin Bieber. Super Gremlin Kodak Black is 19 weeks. ABCDFU Gale, 17 weeks. We Don't Talk About Reno, 12 weeks. So we're talking 3 months to a year of stagnation on the charts. Ghost Justin Bieber, 25 weeks. Easy on Me Adele, 23 weeks. Enemy just entered the top 10 after 17 weeks. 26 weeks or 6 months for Lil Nas X at number 9. And 38 weeks for Bad Habits and Ed Sheeran. And his other song, Shivers, which was on 27 weeks, is number 11. And we can keep going through. 12, Doja Cat, Woman, 33 weeks on the chart. Now at its highest peak at 12. Cold Heart, Dua Lipa, Elton John. That's also that's over 6 months. 28 weeks. 21 weeks for Big Energy. And then the first song you see that is a brand new song or something that's current, Sweetest Pie. 15 for Megan Thee Stallion and Dua Lipa. So a double blockbuster act, a duet, only gets up to 15. And then you look and continue. We go along the chart. We just go to top 20. You're looking at Need to Know, Doja Cat, 40 weeks. Save Your Tears, Weekend Ariana Grande, 63 weeks. Lil Durk, Aha. It's another decently new chart run. Now, it had an album bomb that helped it get up there, where it got to number 18. Devastating Dua Lipa, probably number one song of 2021, 71 weeks. And Pusha P, Gunna, Future Young Thug, 10 weeks. This chart now does no longer identify the hottest songs that are out there, because we know there are songs that people are listening to through TikTok or through Spotify that are absolutely different. Now there are still some streaming that is still going on. Don't get me wrong. Like, I know there are some charts that are still doing something. Don't get me wrong. I know that. But when I look and I say, okay, if I look at the streams and I look at the top songs in the world versus the top songs in global, different story. Weekly songs right now. If I look at it, Heat Waves is up there, and it's got 30 million streams. So it does get that. So does Stay. So does Enemy. So does ABCFU. Yes. So, I mean, these songs are all getting streamed. And maybe there is something to be said about all these songs and how they are. But nothing else is penetrating. And this is the part I guess I didn't really put together last week, because the Spotify charts, last week I really just complained about how the charts are and how certain songs don't make it up. And the difference in the Spotify charts, Desesperados, Raúl Alejandro and Chencho Corleone, their song hit number 8 on the world charts on Spotify. And then you still see Shivers, Ghost, Woman, Easy on Me, and all these other songs that have been around for a long time that are making their way in But at least there's a few more songs that are making their way up towards the top 10 that might get them somewhere. Now, is it a blame for the music that is coming out that's new, is just doesn't have enough pop and not enough mainstream, presence to go ahead and push itself up? Is it something where the record labels are, deciding not to go and promote certain artists? They don't want to put the money behind it. We know they're not using radio. Maybe radio is using what streaming is, and they are following what the streaming is right now. They might be doing that. If I look at the media-based charts and I see, okay, what are they doing? Sure, maybe they are following the same trend. Well, that's what I want. Lil Nas X is the number 1 song. Woman, Doja Cat. Glass Animals, Heat Waves. Gale, ABCDFU is 4. Lotto, Big Energy is 5. Justin Bieber goes to 6. Stay is 7. Need to Know is 8. 1 right now is 9. And Enemies 10. So there's stagnation, not just from the radio, but the streaming also says the same thing. I'm actually kind of surprised by that. So then what I said last week does hold water, but then there's more to the story. Because when we're looking now, I can look at the USA, and I can look and see what they have now. It's still Heat Waves. We don't talk about Bruno, Super Gremlin. Something in the Way, for whatever reason, has made it. Nirvana, Something in the Way, all of a sudden has now made it into the charts. And then Sweetest Pie is, Stay is 5, Sweetest Pie is 6, Industry Baby 7, Enemy 8, Pushin' P 9, Knife Talk 10. So everybody is kind of following along with the music that's out there. And radio, I guess, is kind of following along. They still have their own songs, but, there are a lot of big artists, and they're all controlling the top of the charts, controlling radio, controlling streaming. And so there's only so many artists that are being controlled at the very top of the chart. So what about the independent artists? What about others? And where are people making their money and what's going on? The digital disruption right now, in more than ever, has created something that is really incredible. Music now is stale. Modern music is stale. The way to get a new song pushed up and popular, is it just because of the fact now that way things are? Nobody wants to put out a new song to push it up into an album, push it up into the charts. Nobody's trying that, because there are songs coming out, like, Hit Row and Nashville's putting out songs. Music Row. There's obviously rap acts that continue to put out songs. But when I look at this, I say to myself, why is it here in America where things look so bleak like this? Okay, because if I go look for the official charts, that's a different story. If I go look at the Spotify charts again, and I say to myself, all right, let me look at this one more time. If I just look at Britain, I look at Europe, just for an example. If I look at the UK and I say to myself, all right, let me look at what their charts look like now. It's completely different. Now, they have a couple of their own rap acts, and H with Ashanti doing a song called Baby. Starlight with Dave. By the way, I'm going to say this too, and I've been meaning to talk about this on TikTok or some other place. Rap music has really not gone in the right route. And I'm going to tell you this, that the rap game is not so much being done really well in the U.S. It's getting much done better in Britain. Britain has amazing rap artists right now that get it. They have great flows, great beats, great bars, period. H, Dave, D-Block Europe, Tion Wayne. There's a lot of those Bad Boy Chiller Crew, all of them. They're doing really good work. And I look at their charts, okay? In the UK for streaming, Starlight Dave is number 1, Baby H, Ashanti's 2, Heatwave's Glass Animals 3, Down Under, Lewd and Callahay, the Down Under song from Ben at Work from back in 1982. Where Are You Now? Lost Frequencies of Callum Scott. We don't talk about Bruno is 6. 17 Going Under is a British artist. 7. Overseas, D-Block Europe, Central C is 8. Peru, Fireboy DML, and Ed Sheeran. While that song did not make it high up in the U.S., is amazing. And Make Me Feel Good, Belter's Only Jazzy, is 10. That's there. And then the official chart, which their countdown show starts tomorrow, I can look at the official chart here and I can say, okay, the chart's more or less the same. This is now the one that goes for March 18th. The new chart comes out tomorrow as I record. Starlight Dave is 1. Baby is 2. Peru 3. Where Are You Now 4. Make Me Feel Good 5. Down Under 6. Where Do You Go? Jax Jones and MNEK 7. Overseas 8. Boyfriend Dove Cameron 9. Go Cat Burns 10. And that's where we're at that moment. But there is so much more music that's coming out that's just much better. And I don't know what's happening here, but we are at a point in time where music has gone really bad. And now New York Times talked about this recently. And they reported on the issues of music. And here's what they said. This is from the New York Times. Streaming saved the music industry from the jaws of the internet. But the complex picture of the last 20 years shows that surviving the online revolution isn't only the hard part. What comes next may be even more difficult. Now, they go through some of the history of what's going on with music, and there's this thought now that the music industry supposedly in the U.S. generates less revenue than the peak of CDs. And there's a heated debate about how long the gravy train will last from streaming. And many musicians and others say they are not taking part in the loot from digital transformation. So somebody asked the question, is the music industry an internet success story or not? And this writer says that there's no simple answer, which shows just how messy it can be when technology shocks an industry. It can take decades for all participants to feel like the victors of the digital revolution, if it's even possible. Now, he makes the case that the music industry is doing amazing. More than 500 million people worldwide pay for digital music, mainly in the form of fees for services such as Spotify, Apple Music, or Tencent Music, based in China. These services have given the industry something it never had before, a steady stream of cash each month. And the industry is also making money in a gazillion ways. When you watch a music video on YouTube, people responsible for that song get paid. TikTok pays record companies when videos feature their popular songs. Perhaps more than books, movies, or other traditional media and entertainment sources. There's been a powerful symbiosis of social media and music that has fueled the popularity of both. Now, the revenue, they say, has been increasing since 2015, but revenue from all sources, including streaming subscriptions, CDs, and royalties from Lyft Music, is still slower than in 1999. And according to the RIAA, Recording Industry Association of America, they said that the revenue was $24 billion adjusted for inflation, and revenue in 2021 was $15 billion. Then they talk about global sales data from a different trade group show a similar trajectory. So there's not an infinite number of people who are willing to pay $10 a month to access a whole bunch of songs on their phones through a service like Spotify in many countries. The same thing worries those who believe the music industry's digital success is at its peak. Now, they talk about concern in the industry that even the biggest songs or albums are not as popular as they used to be. This is the point that I'm talking about last week and this week. Now, they talked to somebody here and they said that 99% of artists who aren't as famous as Beyonce say that millions of streams of their songs could translate into money for them. If the music industry is successful, but so many musicians are feeling like they're missing out, is it really a success? And they mentioned there could be so much music and other entertainment at our fingertips that every fresh song isn't just getting attention grabbing or valuable as the music was a decade ago. But people have been saying that Netflix couldn't add paying subscribers, but it is. And now the entertainment industry is copying its strategy. Many musicians are excited about new ways to reach fans on their own terms, NFTs, Bandcamp, among other things, to turn a digital good into one of a kind. So that's what they're talking about there. And we move along now into the fact of what kind of money is being made, because that's been talked about this year. Because there's a number of stories about Spotify that explain that the music industry is making money and the artists are making it with them. A story came out that over 52,000 artists, according to Spotify's records, that they made at least $10,000 on Spotify. 15,140 of them uploaded their own music. Now, that stat can be a little deceiving because $10,000 isn't much. Nobody's going to live off of $10,000. So it's depending on what's being done with the music, the performances, the live events, the touring, or whatever else. Now, they have a website for them that talks about all their stats called Loud and Clear. And when they go through, they mention a number of stats here altogether. Number one, 2021, Spotify paid out more than any other service and set the record for the highest annual payment from any single retailer in history, $7 billion. That's what they wrote. Number two, streaming revenue alone exceeded total industry revenue each year from 2009 to 2016. Over 1,000 artists generated over $1 million on Spotify. Only 1,000. Over 50,000 artists we just mentioned, and likely 40,000 over all recorded revenue sources. So not just Spotify, but other places, they're going to make more money. Next, they say that major record labels earned over $4 billion in profit in 2021, driven by streaming. Next, they said that for the second year running, Spotify paid out more than $1 billion to publishing rights holders. Everybody's making money off of Spotify. They also say that the industry at the height of the CD era favored the top 50 artists twice as much as today. So more artists are getting noticed. 28% of artists who generate over $10,000 self-distribute to Spotify, which is that 15,000 number we talked about. Next, artists can go from zero to career faster than ever, powered by streaming. And finally, 34% of artists who generated more than $10,000 on Spotify live in countries outside the top 10 music markets. Interesting. And they said that as of 2021, Spotify has paid over $30 billion in royalties to the music industry. And that's just part of the picture, they say. Because there are many other streaming services generating music revenue. Streaming only makes up a proportion of all industry revenues. You have to count physical sales, touring, merchandise, sync, or other sources. And Spotify accounted for more than 20% of recorded music revenue, up from 15% in 2017. And it's all out there. They have the website called loudandclear.byspotify.com. Very interesting how they have it all together. It's a very comprehensive website. I'd say take a minute and take a look at it because it's really comprehensive. I like what they put. And Music Business Worldwide talked about this a lot, so I put some links up in the description if you want to take a look at it for yourself. That's good stuff. Free music streaming paid the recording industry $4.6 billion in 2021. And that's in the IFPI Global Music Report. Now, another story from Music Business Worldwide talked about how we need to change everything we think about the music economy, the streaming economy for music. Now, they're talking about professional artists and how they're tagged on Spotify. And there were two key questions that someone came on here from Music Business Worldwide and talked to the founder, Tim Ingham, to talk about the statistics that Spotify put out. And here's what they said. First of all, how many of the 8 million artists on Spotify's platform have released fewer than 10 songs to date? The answer might surprise you. It's 5.4 million, or just over 2/3 of artists that have put out less than 10 tracks. Next, Spotify's calculated how many of the 2.6 million artists on its platform with more than 10 tracks are popular enough to have more than 10,000 monthly listeners. The answer is 165,000 acts. So, Music Business Worldwide wanted to go and see if they could debunk any of the stories. They wanted to fact check everything that Spotify put out there. And that's what they did in that story. So, okay. And so, when you look at what they're doing now and what the music industry is becoming, it's in rough shape. When I look at what new music comes out, we're not getting any artists right now that are necessarily putting out new music. And why is it that if radio is becoming stale, okay, the music is becoming stale in general, and radio doesn't have any plans as to what they're going to do to help fix this. I don't see them offering a solution. Because right now they don't have a plan in place to take care of that. If I look at stations around the country and see what they're playing, they're all doing the same thing. They're playing songs that are 6 months to a year old. And they've been on their stations for a long time. And they're not changing them out. And they're not doing anything special with them either. So when you look at what they're doing, I can look and say, okay, well, let's look at the formats and what they have. If I look at the format just for top 40, okay, I can look at various stations and I can say, okay, look what they're doing right now. Z100 in New York, which is usually a pretty good gauge of where music is right now on the radio, an iHeartRadio station. Justin Bieber and Ghost is the most played song. That's What I Want, Stay, ABCDFU, Heat Waves. And these songs have been up there for a long time. They don't show how many weeks they've been on, but we know that those songs have been up there for a long time, and there's no change in the lineup either. Very little, if any. And that's what they do. Because, I mean, it's as if music is just not moving along with the times. With the ability to go ahead and post new music on Spotify, Pandora, Apple Music, you would think that music would be much more common or not. But what's happening is, are people just getting more inclined to listen to different music? Because pop music, rap music, country music, you're not getting a lot of new songs right now, especially in American music. There's not a lot being pushed out on a regular basis. New album releases. We don't see the announcements for them. And when they do, they just drop in and we don't hear anything about it. And that's a problem. There's no answer for this. So I've noticed myself, I listen to more older music right now these days because there's not much new music out there. And there is new music. It's just not in America. All the reggaeton artists, they put out new music all the time. All the time. So I have that to go and watch on a regular basis. And then I look at myself and say, all right, well then what about we have, what do we do for, in Britain? Why is it they have all these new artists and all this new music? There was a time where it didn't matter what was going on with, there was a time where the British invasion, where music would come in and there would be an advantage taken for British music to come into the country, because we always had different phases where British artists would come in here and they would take over the charts. And that would replace what's going on. But that's not happening now. And partly that's because of Spotify and Pandora and Apple. When streaming is worldwide, the American music scene, when it comes to the radio stations, when it comes to anything that's in here, they don't want to do anything about that. They don't want to go ahead and put out new music to support the radio stations. The record labels are not doing anything to kind of support anybody else. And I don't understand that part. I don't get that. And I think part of the thing is that there are a number of record companies that are doing fine in other places because they have the European charts. They have other places to go to put their music and sell it a lot and probably sell digital sales and all that. But they're not doing anything about it. I look right now on the official chart, you've got a lot of dance music that's under Pandora. I didn't even know Pandora was still a thing, but Pandora is still a popular thing right now. Disruptor Records, that's for Dove Cameron's single. You have RCA that has a lot of artists on their own chart that are doing very well. And then in the UK, you have Cat Burns, who's a brand new artist. And by the way, there's a lot of great songs that do not get played in the US when they could. One of the songs that really is a sleeper hit and never got played, like Dove Cameron and Boyfriend. If I look right now on the Z100 chart, is it on here? Is she in here? I don't think so. Nope. I'm looking right now. That song is not on there. Lauren Spencer Smith. She was an American Idol contestant. Fingers Crossed. That song right now in the UK, the song has now been 11 weeks on the chart. It's at number 17. And it got as high as number 4. And that's an American artist that cannot get is just getting airplay now in the US. Oh, Dove Cameron's in there. Okay, there we go. 23. Ava Max for a while, her song, The Motto with Tiesto, or Tiesto's song with Ava Max, That didn't get a lot of play right here, right away. You have Hold that now finally is getting a little bit of play because it's a TikTok song that's getting some traction. Now you're seeing that in. Closer with Her, Sweetie, you're finally seeing that being brought in. But again, those are all down on the chart. They're not getting that much play. And I look at the songs they have at Z100, and I'm saying to myself, wow, these are the top 50 songs they have. And I'm saying, okay, they're still playing Say So, Kiss Me More. Those are all 2021 songs, or 2020 actually for Doja Cat. Jonas Brothers' Only Human is part of their top 50. Dua Lipa, Don't Start Now. Okay, Industry Baby is also in there. You also see Positions, Ariana Grande, Louis Capaldi is in their top 50, excuse me. Ariana Grande, POV. Mood is in their top 50. Great song, but those are the songs you're going to put in. Post Malone, Circles. Ariana Grande, 3435. Måneskin, Beggin'. These are all more than your old songs. These are golden recurrent songs. And what are they doing in here? You're telling me there's not any new music right now? Like, new music should be, according to what Slam in the Netherlands has, it's what, 6 to 18 months? And some of these songs are 2 years old. Older than that. BTS Dynamite. If you're a new music station, I would think, okay, maybe some songs from the last year, but you should be playing mostly 2022 songs. They're not. They're not. Now, granted, some of these plays that they have on here are like, what, 5 to 25 spins a week? And then when you get to the songs that are going to get played 50 times a week, that's up to the top 20. And that's the way their format works. So yeah, mostly new songs to the top. But, I mean, you have songs out there that are stale. They've been up there for a long time. They've been played over and over. Like, you need to replace those songs. You should have something fresh. It's like produce. What are you going to do? You're going to have the same produce that's up there that's kind of getting stale and old. Like, you need freshness. And there's no freshness at all right now on the charts. I don't know what's going on here, but there's no. And this is something I got to continue to rant on, because I'm tired of seeing where there's not a lot of new music. And don't get me wrong, I can look right now, and I look at my own personal list of music. I have it over on Spotify, and it's pretty expansive. I like it. I'm happy about it. It's called Mega Miami. But when I look at the songs I have, listen, I'm able to go and curate 145 songs, about 7 hours. But when I look at it, all the songs I have are basically songs that came out from the last 3 months, something like that. Most of my songs, when I look at it, okay, there are songs that are in the EDM format that are amazing songs that I think could absolutely be played as chart toppers in the U.S., but they don't. So, unless Katy Perry when I'm gone, Katy Perry can't even get noticed. She's on American Idol. She's featured on a new song. And for whatever reason, radio stations don't think the song like hers is going to work right now these days. I don't know what they're thinking. Summer Walker, SZA, No Love. That's an R&B song, so that doesn't necessarily get to top 40. That's fine. When I look at my list and I continue, I look at Melody Sagala. That's a song that's pretty. All these songs that I have that are EDM. There's so many EDM songs that could replace what's going on the charts there in the U.S. For whatever reason, the U.S., they don't want to have a lot of upbeat pop songs. And there's so much this dance pop that comes out that is so good that could absolutely resonate. But there's only a couple songs that ever make it over there to go. Like, here's another one. Charlie XCX has a brand new album out. I want to see how it does, and if it really does make a big dent at all, because she does great music, but never gets any songs on the charts in the U.S. She has a song called Beg For You with Rina Sawayama. It's a great song. Has a song called Good Ones that was really good, and that never got anything for whatever reason. And I keep looking, and I say, okay, where do you go? There's Miguel with Deep Blue with Don't Forget My Love. That song could have been played in the U.S. I don't know why it's not. Doja Cat put out Celebrity Skin, a cover of the whole song with Courtney Love. Not with Courtney Love, but that was Courtney Love's song. Well, she did a cover of it, and it was pretty good. But now, it never got any traction. It would have been kind of cool to go and see that song make it over, but I guess, they didn't want to do it. And that's the problem. All the songs that are here, it's not, there's She's All I Want to Be, Tate McRae. Is that even on the chart here? Oh, that's a good question. And that's another artist that is doing pretty well, has her music out there, and she had the song You Broke Me First, which still probably gets played on a station like Z100. Is her song up here? Oh, that's a good question. I'm going to look, and I'm going to say, oh, she's in there. She's number 8. Good for them. All right. At least there's certain songs that are getting played. But there's so much that's just in there for a long time. Is it the blame of the music industry? Is it the blame of the radio stations? Is it the blame of the artists? Because if they're not making that much money, they're not going to output so many records, especially popular ones. So is that kind of taking away what they're doing and what's going on? I don't know. It could be. Let's look at the charts for the videos on YouTube with another set of insights. Now, this is for top music videos, week ending March 11th to March 17th, 2022. YouTube, which also should be getting a whole lot of people looking at what's going on. In this here, we look at the top music videos. We don't talk about Bruno is number 1. There's some song that from India, Ratan Lambian, which is number 2. Then there's another one there's a bunch of them that are that, right? And then we look at just, if I can get a little more to the U.S., and see if I can get something where the U.S. kind of, oh, you know what? Here's what I'm going to do. I want to look at U.S. I'm going to show you the U.S. right now. Let's go ahead and do that. So number 1 is We Don't Talk About Bruno. Number 2, Super Gremlin. 3, Family Madrigal. Mommy, Carol G and Becky G. 4, Aha, Lil Durk. 5, I Got the Bag, Young Boy Never Broke Again. 6, All of You from Ginkanto. 7, Heatwaves, Glass Animals. 8, Barbarian from Lil Durk. 9, Her and Hers, Mooney Long. 10. A completely different chart. A completely different set of what music's out there. When you look at it, no one is saying a word of what's going on. Nothing. And that's a problem. That there's a disconnect between what new music is out there and for the mass media and the mass audience to listen to. Now, if they're going to just go to YouTube or Spotify or Pandora, Apple Music, they can. And they have the option to. But there's a lot of music that's getting missed out. And that is something that concerns me greatly. And I hope there's a way to figure that out. At some point, because I don't like where we're just seeing no new music out. And when there's any new music to all, then that's where we are. So. Honestly, I really feel like I know that some of the things I talk about as I am reading along with it makes myself feel a little contradictory, but I'm just really frustrated. I remember times when I'd go and listen to new music all the time, and I'm just thinking about the fact that how many songs become number 1 songs every year on the Billboard charts? How many new songs we get on a regular basis that just drop into the charts and work their way up? But is the quality of music getting that bad? There's not enough songs that are popular enough to make it up to the top of the charts. Is that something we're actually seeing right now? Is the quality of music getting bad? The newer music? Maybe because it's sounding the same. I don't know. But these are all questions I think about. And I'd love to get answers for it. Maybe at some point we will. A few other things I want to go and talk about here on the show is going to move along into the second part of the program. The Infinite Dial, U.S. online listening grows. We're going to go on and talk all about that right now. After that, we're going to talk about that Netflix now is instituting their password crackdown. And it's being said it'll be tougher than it seems. Variety put out a story about how big tech is dealing with some big troubles. And one other story I want to bring up right now. Radio Insight actually put up an interesting story about what comes first, the station or the music. And it's a story that came out from Sean Ross at Ross on Radio. one of his columns, he talks about how with so many current-based formats looking to program their way out of the current doldrums, the question of what leads top 40 country into the format is out of a morass. Is it a better product? Is it radio stations making better use of the product? Now they talk about that there was a lot of doldrums in music, where there was not much music that was coming out, and if it wasn't very top 40 like and very energetic in the early 80s. They talk about that in 1980 to 1982. They said that it never had to happen. In the apex of disco in 1979, the earliest new wave breakthroughs and the continued strength of corporate rock made for one great summer of hit and almost hit music. Then there was a disco backlash, really an R&B backlash, taking hold into a lesser degree, and the rush to bring new wave to top 40 slowed until the arrival of MTV. Hit music sounded better on UK radio when I could hear it, and that's just how it is. It really is like that today still. Hit music sounded better in Canada when new wave was embraced more fully by both top 40 and rock radio. Toronto, they had a station, CHUM, C-H-U-M, one that leaned AC like most of its counterparts, and one that was nearby. They both played Rapper's Delight and Squeezes Another Nail in My Heart. CKGM in Montreal had a similar formula, but often with entirely different records. They were a station he wishes they could have heard more, Sean Ross says. 1980 was an uneven year for top 40. Heritage AMs finally gave up. FMs evolved to either album rock or AC. But 1980 was a very popular year for music. And I'll tell you, I listened to a lot of Casey Kasem countdowns from 1980 for American Top 40, and some of the songs they had out there, it was really good music that year. You had Blondie and Call Me was the number one song. You had, what was it? Oh, Do It To Me One More Time, Captain Tennille. But, of course, that's like more of an AC song. You had Billy Joel's Still Rock and Roll to Me in 80. You had another one by Said Dust by Queen in 1980. Among other songs, I remember there was some great songs that hit the charts in that year. There was Sarah by Fleetwood Mac, Jane by Jefferson Starship. They were great. Now, he looks back in 1980 and what the songs were being put on and what they were doing. So the radio actually tried to go ahead and counteract with the doldrums of music because we were getting the corporate rock, we were getting the soft rock feel of all these stations. And so the rock stations, or some of the big popular trending radio stations, they tried to go ahead and change to go to different trends. He references the KISS 108 in Boston, WXKS. It went from disco to urban and kept going for the next few years, becoming the hippest top 40 in America. KISS 108 was the one place where R&B crossovers never stopped crossing over, but also one of the first stations to play Watch Your Step by Elvis Costello, which went top 10, and never got played on any other contemporary hit radio station in America. Elvis Costello, I must say, because of how popular he was in Britain and some of the songs he's done, his music was great. His early stuff, fantastic. And he doesn't get enough credit. Well, I mean, sure he does. Obviously, he's got a great, rapport. But Top 40 never really stood behind Elvis Costello. No, not at all. KFRC in San Francisco, they made a decision to not continue to AC. They were aggressive on R&B crossovers. Stayed away from a lot of the AC-leaning product. Doubled down on personality promotion. They had 3 contests going on at once. Jock spoke over almost every intro. 81, 82. A reminder that Top 40 didn't have to be the sound like it did everywhere else. That's the point, is that you take music from other areas and replace it. When music was in the doldrums in the early 90s, you had a lot of freestyle music that came into the forefront, and that was the music that was getting played a lot. Late 80s, early 90s, around. And there could be a British invasion now, where a number of artists right now from Britain could be coming over here, and you have music that's really going popular that I think would really resonate well if they got heard here. The thing is, if those songs got a little bit of airplay on terrestrial radio in America as a bit of a beacon to get new music out, and then it goes and resonates into everywhere else, they're not doing that. Like if you were trying to be a trendsetter here, radio doesn't want to be a trendsetter. Nobody's trying to be a trendsetter. The trendsetters are online. And the problem is that are you just going to go ahead and succumb to the digital disruption? Or are you actually going to try to do something about it? I guess they don't want to do anything. Then there's WCAU in Philadelphia. And I had a particular format called Hot Hits that Mike Joseph created. And it was sales-based. You play the R&B crossover hits at 81 and 82. You would hear Apache by Sugar Hill Gang as a current, along with a lot of AC music. And then you also had B96 in Chicago, providing R&B hits that worked even in Chicago. By 1982, it was a seed station for CBS Radio's other hit radio outlets, and thus for other of dozens of similar stations. Then they talk about here about I-95 in Miami, which is what was competing up against WQAM and Y100. So they mentioned that station and KKBQ in Houston. They shared a music consultant in John Hartman, who moved wildly in both currents with R&B crossovers and new wave reaction titles, and gold. And then in Los Angeles, you had KIQQ, which had a broad, quirky mix that included crossovers from new wave. KRQ, new wave was going to play on K-Rock for a long time, and a lot of 80s AC as well. And then Kiss FM relaunched with Rick Dees in 1982, shifted from a Kiss 108-like format to Hot AC, but over the year, Kiss opened its music, began to embrace R&B again, and quickly upstaged KIQQ, and became the protagonist of the CHR comeback. And this same game plan was very similar to what KHKS, or Kiss FM in Dallas, did to help revive CHR in 1984, 1985, when the station was about to be changed. Now, radio's had disruptors before. MTV was it. And MTV forced radio to change. Why is it not happening here? Sure, there were radio programs that moved over to MTV and worked on that station because it was in stereo and it was like doing radio on television. That was the idea of music television. But is it just because of the fact that it's not radio people that are actually controlling and the consulting and controlling what money's coming in? That's why we're not seeing, or that we're hearing particular artists that could be disrupting the charts. They're not getting played over here for whatever reason? That's a good question. Now, he also ends up saying that, are there more hits waiting to be harvested from TikTok and streaming overall? Yes. Although I continue to emphasize that streaming shouldn't be the only place that radio and labels look. Like MTV in the mid-'80s, there will be a lot of songs that will never cross the radio. And now radio stations, they make the boldest decisions with the music available to them are success stories. But they tend to be in medium and smaller markets, not in Boston, Philadelphia, and Houston. San Francisco, with the two largest aggressive market CHRs, is a happy exception. But current base formats now have challenges that didn't exist in 80 to 82. But if there's going to be a comeback, it will start with stations being more aggressive with the music already available to them. And it's true. And I'm looking for songs that I want to listen to on the radio that I want to listen to. And, I want to have a station that plays all those kind of music, all that kind of music. And they don't. At the moment, I look at one station that's in Idaho Falls. I don't even know what market they are, but their music, you're looking right now, and it's like, okay, you got it, and there's not much to it. But when you look at the music they're playing, okay, this Z103 station definitely bucks the format. They are trying to be pioneering a new feel of format of the music they're playing. Okay, when I look at what they're playing right now, and I say, okay, what songs are they playing right now that are really popular? Well, let me look at their list. Moth to a Flame, Swedish House Mafia. You don't hear that song much on the radio, but it was out there. They played, Stay is on here. When I'm Gone, that's a song that doesn't get played much on many major radio stations. ABC Gale is in there. Okay, She's All I Want to Be is in there. Let It Go, James Bay. Nobody's playing that, but that's an older song. Bam Bam featuring Ed Sheeran. That's starting to get some play because of the artists that are on there. In the Summertime, Nikki. I don't even know what that song is. Fingers Crossed gets played in their list. Meet Me at Our Spot. That never got on the radio, did it? I don't think if it did, it didn't get much play at all. But that's one station that does their thing. They're trying to make something more. And I appreciate that. let's go ahead and move along now into what's going on with the infinite dial and what they're putting out there, because they put a lot of research. And I want to go ahead and talk about that now. The 2022 Edison Research Infinite Dial. They said that online radio consumption or audio consumption has shown significant gains year over year. This is also sponsored by Wondery and Art19, by the way. So they say now that they conducted a national telephone survey of 1,500 people, 12 and older, using random digital dial techniques to both cell phones and landlines. When they talk about primary work location, 70 to 75%, right now, 75% of the respondents are primarily outside the home for their work. And 20% are inside the home. And 5% both equally. Smartphone ownership, they're showing an estimated 252 million people with smartphones. 152 million for tablets. Watches, 57 million. Smart speakers, 100 million. Number of radios in the household we talked about last week. That got pushed out early. Now the total U.S. population. Number of radios in household. Well, let's talk about it. 0 for total 12 plus, 39%. Ages 12 to 34, 57% don't have a radio in their household. 39% have 1 to 3. That's awful. And then 35-54 definitely has more. 56% of them have radios in the household. 55 plus, 67%. 129 billion people listen to audiobooks, estimated. They also did stuff on video games, social media usage. They say that total U.S. population, 235 million in the U.S. are on social media and using it regularly. Social media brand awareness, Facebook is on top. Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, Snapchat, Pinterest, and LinkedIn follow the line. Usage, Facebook is still on top. There's more to it I could put in here. When it comes to online audio brands, they say the awareness, Spotify is the top, 82%. Pandora, Apple Music, iHeartRadio, Amazon Music, YouTube Music, SoundCloud, NPR One, Odyssey, and TuneIn Radio round out the list. Audio brands listened to in the last month, Spotify is on top, 35%. YouTube Music, 23%. Pandora, Apple Music, Amazon Music, iHeart, SoundCloud roll out the list. Audio brand most used often, Spotify leads it on total and own a smart speaker. When it comes to audio with other people, that some people, if they're listening to audio with other people, 12 to 34, 26% frequently, 29% sometimes, 23% hardly ever, 22% never. They go into cars and they talk about the audio sources ever used in a car. Currently, AM/FM radio still is top, but it continues to drop. 73% for AM/FM radio. Owned digital music, 55%. Podcast, 32%. SiriusXM, 22%. Online audio, 32%, which would be podcasts. When it comes to podcasting familiarity, 226 million. Listenership, 177 million. It keeps growing up every year, nonstop. Monthly podcast listening continues to grow gradually. There's much more to go and take all this list, but that's what we're talking about right here. A lot of interesting stats. Take a look at it for yourself and see what you think. Let's talk about the Netflix password crackdown. I want to bring that up real quick. You know, they were talking about they were going to do this because they need to make sure they're making money off the subscribers. And they're getting more subscribers, but still they want to make sure that people are not pirating or abusing the privilege, basically. So Netflix is looking to increase average revenue per user, and we know that they just put their price up like an extra $1 over the last few months. They mentioned now that Over the next few weeks, Netflix will allow subscribers of standard premium plans in 3 countries, Chile, Costa Rica, and Peru, to add accounts for up to 2 people they don't live with. And it will allow subs on the 3 plans, basic, standard, and premium, to transfer their profile information to an entirely new Netflix account or an extra sub account. Now, Netflix may send a verification code to a subscriber to verify a device that's being used to access that subscriber's account in another location. And they'll use information used, including IP addresses and device IDs, to determine when one account is being used in more than one household. So they talk about how it's positive when you consider that 36% of Americans say they share the Netflix account with relatives. That's according to an Advertising Research Foundation study of U.S. adults fielded in 2021. That's a test they're doing right now to see what it's going to do. There's more in the story, but keep an eye on that. You might now start seeing where accounts are going to have separate accounts. And what is that going to mean? One other story I want to bring up before we wrap things up. It's big troubles for big tech. And Variety put the story out there. And they're saying now that it's hard to understate big tech's influence on the world. Group's products and services are used by billions, and their stocks have propped up the U.S. market during the pandemic. So they're saying the stocks have started to go down. Well, there's everybody that's going down. Inflation being an external pressure, supply chain crisis, regulatory scrutiny are not new, and big tech managed to do fine before last year with those challenges. But now there's geopolitical risk and a higher interest rate environment. The new complications will now threaten the record profits for big tech. And that's something they're also talking about there, where they're saying now there's immense pressure on big tech. Earnings season kicks off in April, and the group's first quarter results will serve as a barometer for the health of the sector. Investors don't respond well to slowing growth, given most of the tech giants posting record figures. It's going to be higher bar than usual because they're worried about with the music out, or with the tech companies and the disruption of doing digitally. You know, they need to go and have the confidence of the stock market and the investors that they keep growing. And if they're stunting growth, unlike the mainstream counterparts of media, there's a problem to be said, and that's what they're worried about. Okay, I'm leaving it there. That's our show for tonight. Thanks for listening in. And if you want to jump into the conversation of the music industry, I'm here for it because I want to have answers as to why the music industry is not pumping out new music that's getting popular enough to make it on the charts, on the radio, and getting buzzed all over the place. Because we're seeing a stagnation. We're in doldrums, just like Sean Ross said. And there's not enough of that good music coming out. And there's a lot of new artists out there. There's a lot of new people that could be out putting new songs on the radio, but they're not. And that's a problem. Thanks for listening in for another Broadcasters Podcast. Until next week, remember, content is king. And the control of your content is in your hands.
Thank you for listening to the Broadcasters Podcast. Find all the links to subscribe to the show by going to broadcasterspodcast.com. And don't forget to check out the King of Podcasts wrestling program, the Wrestling is Real podcast, exclusively at wrestlingisreal.com.